Hello, and welcome to the Winchester Archive Supernatural Podcast. I'm Ed.
I'm Brooke.
And we're back. We're back, finally. Today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 7, The Usual Suspects. Can't talk today already. It's going to go great. Get all that rust off us. Before we get going, before we do our quick spoiler alert and all that fun stuff, just wanted to say sorry for the absence. Life kind of got a lot for us there for a little bit. To just go into it a little bit, Brooke got really sick to the point where we could not record for like about a week and a half. And then I got really sick and I couldn't record for about a week and a half. It was a lot of fun. And then on other exciting news, and it was basically taking up most of our rest of our time, we have a new archivist joining us soon, i.e., we're having a baby.
Yes. Out of the first trimester, then I got sick. And then we went on vacation with my mom, and it was just a lot.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, life got really busy for us very quickly. But we've gotten that all sorted out. We're both feeling healthy enough. So we're back, and we're excited to get back into it.
Like, if you go back and watch our episodes from like March and April, I look like a dead person. And that's because I was in my first trimester, and I was tired all the time. And it was just a point, like, we were sick and coughing so much. We were like, we just need a break.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll try our best to not ghost again and give like better updates
Yes,
as things happen.
indeed. Like I said, we weren't expecting it to be this long of a hiatus, but it happened, and now we're here to keep going. So I appreciate you sticking with us. Hope you enjoy as we continue on with this. And before we get going into this episode, quick spoiler warning as always. We are connecting the dots from across the entire series. So if this is your first time watching or you've not finished Supernatural yet, this is your warning. You will be spoiled. Sorry. Also, before we get going, explicit content warning as always. We are adults talking about an adult show that deals with a dark and sensitive topic. So expect adult language, mature discussions, and dark humor as always. So, before we get into it, I almost forgot the last part, which is about all the social medias and all the likes and subscribes and all the things. Press the buttons, share the episode. We're on Upscroll to Winchester Archives Pod, YouTube, Patreon, Winchester Archives Podcast. Please share, comment, like, subscribe, all the things to keep our community of archivists continuing to grow. We appreciate it.
And I've decided to make the decision to go back to TikTok. So we're on there again.
Yes, TikTok.
Mhm.
Hard to avoid the biggest platforms in the entire United States, right?
Yeah, very much.
So if you like to doom scrolling on TikTok, we're also there.
All right. Are we ready for me to move on?
Yes, episode specs times, please.
All right. So this episode aired on November 9th, 2006. Written by Catherine Humphries. Directed by Mike Roll. And their supporting cast here is Linda Blair as Diana Ballard, the queen.
Which is awesome to see Linda
Yes.
Blair. And she does a great job, which is like to be expected, I feel like.
Yes, exactly. It is. So the synopsis for this episode is Dean is brought into the police station on suspicion of murder. Sam was brought in for questioning, but just for them to get more evidence against Dean. And this episode has a unique perspective as it bounces between the actual event that happened and like what Sam is telling the police that happened.
Yes.
And then it unfolds this murder mystery. And that's my synopsis.
All right.
If I go too much further, it's like, why are we doing the whole thing?
Yeah. Yeah, this episode is a fun dynamic. I really enjoyed. Gave me a big kick out of how like Sam explained what happened in like the normal, what you'd expect way, and then it cuts to like what actually happened, and it's like not even close. But
Yeah.
it's crazy how quickly he's able to just like lie about it.
Yes. And how their stories match.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow. Okay. So let's start out from the beginning. We start out in a police station. Looks like a detective on the phone getting a fax. And now there's a SWAT team going somewhere. And the detective is interviewing Dean and listing out all the crimes we mention every week.
Yes.
Like, the police know that you're doing these things too.
Yeah, breaking and entering, false names, murder.
Credit card fraud,
Yeah.
And the SWAT team actually broke into Sam's hotel room or motel room.
Uh-huh.
And the facts the detective got was from Missouri, where Dean was suspected of torturing and killing the people because of the shapeshifter.
Uh-huh.
But then he was also thought to be dead because the shapeshifter was Dean at the
Yeah.
time.
When he was killed.
Yeah. Now we see Sam and his detective gave him some coffee, and he immediately was like, "Okay, you're the good cop. Where's the bad cop?" And she says, "Oh yeah, he's with Dean right now, who is under suspicion of murder."
Yeah.
And Sam, amazing actor, was like, "Murder?" Like he was genuinely surprised.
Uh-huh.
And Sam tries to say they can't hold them without charges, and she says they can for 48 hours. And Sam should know that because he's a pre-law student.
Yeah. Meaning she's looked into him quite a bit.
Yes. She goes like real deep into Sam's life at this point.
Yeah, which
And
is something that we point out too, where it's got a little suspicious that the only victim of that fire was his girlfriend, and then he skipped town immediately the next day with his brother, which, like we had said at the very beginning, looks so sus.
yes, I'm like, even if you needed a break, you stay for a moment.
Yeah, you let the cops talk to you about it.
Yes. But then she tells him that we don't get to choose our family and it's not his fault. Dean is his brother. So she's basically just saying, like, don't go down with your brother. Just give us what you have,
Yeah, yeah, they
which
can make a deal for him.
I think it's fair, but that's not their relationship.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Also, just to throw it out there, the cop that's talking to Sam is Linda Blair, like
Yes.
that. Yeah,
It's the
so
girl cop.
yeah,
She's now getting Sam to open up and talk about a murder they claim they caught Dean at red-handed. Because she's like,
uh-huh,
he did it. We literally caught him red-handed. And then
uh-huh.
when Sam starts talking, I was like, why is he just yapping right now? He knows
Yep.
to not do that.
He should
And
as a pre-law student. Yeah, he should definitely know that the whole thing is you don't talk until you have a lawyer present.
yes, you ask for a lawyer and you shut up.
Mhm.
I actually saw a lawyer online once say, you know how, like, the Miranda rights are read and they say you have the right to remain silent? She
Yeah.
goes, "They don't have to tell you that. You always have that right, so just shut up." And
Yes.
I'm like, "That is true. That's
Mhm.
true, because they only tell you that when you're arrested, not when you're being, like, held."
Yeah, just in general.
Yes. Just stop talking. But Sam doesn't. He goes into
Yeah.
a story.
Very, very, well-rehearsed story, it seems.
Yes. Sam is telling her about this guy named Tony Giles, and they've known him since they were kids. So when they heard about his death, they just had to come right away.
Uh-huh.
Tony's throat was slit, no DNA, no prints at the scene. The security cameras stopped working. It all sounds like a ghost to me. Sam says Dean couldn't kill Tony because they weren't even in town. So they went to see Karen. And funnily enough, here the brothers are arguing over who is Mulder and who is Scully out of the two of them.
Which is awesome.
Because Dean says, like, come on, Scully. And Sam is like, I'm not Scully. Which I say is a tad weird because Mulder and Scully were like lovers. But, that's okay.
Yeah, but they're detectives working together. Partner in crime, right? A partner
Yeah.
in solving crime.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, when they go to see Karen, they're pretending to be insurance agents.
Yeah, so everything that he just said to the cop, completely false. Did not know who this guy was. Did not
No.
know who Kelly was and, like, just, or Karen was, and just, like, went there
Yes.
as, like, insurance agents being like, "Hey, we need to ask you a lot of questions."
Yep. Karen says he has a nightmare. Tony had a nightmare of a woman standing at the end of the bed who was very pale, had red eyes. But Sam tells the detective it was just a quick visit to see if she needed anything.
Yeah, and it was funny because, Dean was just sitting there, like, pressing her, like, really weird questions like that until she finally just tells him that, and then she is just like, "Any other details, any other weird things?" Like, why would there be? Like, getting really annoyed with him, and
Yes.
Sam was just like, "Please, you're being pushy."
Yes, I agree. Because they asked, like, what she looked like, and Karen was like,
Yeah.
"Why the hell does that matter?"
Mhm.
And it's like, "Please just tell us." Thank you. The detective here says he's lying, and they have an eyewitness saying they broke into the crime scene. Sam is like, "Hey, I know it was wrong, but Karen needed stuff out of his office and the police weren't letting her in. So she gave us the key and we went in there."
Mhm.
But in reality, they did break in with a lockpick.
As always.
Yes. In Tony's office, they see a typed paper that says Dana Schultz written all over it with no spaces. They're seeing it all over the place. It was written on the
Mhm.
glass table. They went through the entire office and couldn't find anything. And Sam's found nothing online, but he's trying to crack the password to get into Tony's like personal files.
Mhm.
And Dean is having a very hard time just sitting there. So he's making noises.
Like
Sam
the
yells,
weirdest noises too.
yes. Sam yells at him and he's like, okay, I'm just going to go talk to Karen again. All right. So
It was
then
such a funny scene too, because Dean's just like that clearly doesn't know what to do.
yes, he's like, you just want me to stay here and do nothing? The detective says when him and Dean split up is when Dean killed her. And I mean, that makes logical sense.
Yeah.
Sam says he didn't, and the detective says she heard Karen's 911 call and about someone being inside the house. However, we, the audience, know the person she was seeing was a ghost.
Yeah.
She did call 911, but the phone line was cut off after giving her address. And I thought the 911 call was so funny. So my sibling works for 911, and I just had to send this to them because it was like, she called and they just said emergency services. And then she was like, there's someone in my house. And they said, what's your address? And that was it. No other, nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's weird. But it's
Mhm.
for a TV show.
Yeah.
So yeah, she gave her address. Phone line was cut. And then her printer started printing paper on his own that said Dana Schultz over and over and over again.
Creepy.
Yes. Then Dana, well, I'm assuming the ghost name isn't Dana, but I called it Dana at this point because then Dana appears and kills her. Dean knocks, but when she doesn't answer, he decides to break in, not knowing she had called the police.
Mhm.
And he's literally touching her body to inspect it, which we say every episode. Why are you messing with the crime scene?
Yeah.
Every time. So the police show up and arrest him. And this is how they caught him literally red handed.
Literally with her blood all over his hands.
Yes. The two detectives, the male and female, uh, meet up to talk. The one with Dean says he's not getting anything but smart ass remarks. The one with Sam says their stories match identically. And
Mhm.
without Sam flipping, all they have is circumstantial evidence. She also pointed out when they arrested Dean, there wasn't a murder weapon, and they don't even have a motive.
Mhm.
The detective with Dean says juries convict for much less, so none of that matters. So they don't care. He doesn't care to find the actual murderer. He's like, let's just get this guy because he's a bad guy.
Yeah. He's just trying to basically make the case regardless, just so then they can not do any more work towards
Yes.
it. Seems really sus.
Yes. And now we see these detectives kiss. They are Mulder and Scully.
Mhm.
So there's that.
Yep.
Now Sam is suspecting Dana Schultz could be an anagram and he's writing it out. And at the very same time, Dean is doing the same thing. He thinks the same thing.
Yep.
And he gets a very nerdy old public defender coming into the room.
This
But
guy, he's trying his best to like get them off on this
oh,
case, and they are just not cooperating with him at all.
I know this. I was like, this is why public defenders don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
The lawyer is explaining the situation to him because he's like, good news, they don't have a weapon. Bad news, you were caught there. So, like, let's figure this out.
Mhm.
And Dean is just not paying attention.
Yep.
And he shows the lawyer the paper and asks him if he recognizes anything. And he was like, I don't know about SUP, but Ashland is a street. And then he's like, hey, Dean, can you go over your story with me? And Dean again does not care and says, hey, if you want to help me, go see my brother.
And give him this.
Yeah, and give him this paper. So back to the woman detective working with Sam. She's on the computer and it started going crazy with the Dana Schultz name over and over and over again. And then it disappears and she just looks around like sus, like, what was that?
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah. And just as the lawyer sits down with Sam and he's like, cool, let's go over your story, she walks in and says, we need you with the other one because he's going to confess. And then, the lawyer's like, I highly don't suggest that.
Yeah, please don't confess.
Yes. And Dean says, his name, he's an Aquarius, he loves frisky women.
Yeah, it's just such a, he's such a smart ass all the time, and it's amazing.
Yes. But then he says he didn't kill anyone, but he knows who did or what did, and that it's a vengeful spirit and it's trying to it's trying to communicate with them, but it's hard for them to do. Then he shows the Dana Schultz paper. The male detective is fed up with Dean and he's like thinking he's making fun of the deaths, which we know he's not, but it does sound crazy.
Sound insane. Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is like my first bit I get to talk about. First of all, vengeful spirits always, but this case a little different. But the idea that Dean mentions of spirits having trouble communicating once they're dead is a very common trope in modern horror and just in general, in this kind of idea of the dead communicating with you. Is they're always they have to do it in metaphor or in this weird kind of word. It's always very weird, right? They get to listen to them if you record them with static, and hope you can hear words out of static or whatever. And it's instead of just an actual message. Just like Dean's reference to Red Room from The Shining, same kind of thing about ghost warning of impending deaths that happen or things that are going to happen, what happened to them. Which in this case, this ghost is that. It's not really much of a vengeful spirit as it is a warning spirit trying to prevent other deaths. But it is a common thing in mythology that only certain people that have the ability to cipher the dead, basically those that can, oracles or mediums, other form of divination, they're all vague. Like I was saying, they need a special trance or need to be in an altered state of mind or need, to hear voices out of static, like I said, in modern times. A lot of those kind of things where everything is always just kind of cryptic and weird. I know there's a famous oracle that was if you do this thing, a great kingdom will fall. So the king inevitably interpreted as if he goes to war, he will win. But no, it's his empire that falls because he went to war. And it's because it's all cryptic, he got the wrong message. So it's a very common trope throughout all of, folklore that spirits have a hard time communicating to alive people.
Yeah, it happens a lot in our media.
Yeah.
Is thinking, we just finished Game of Thrones and that prophecy, that set up a whole motion of things because it was cryptic and not straightforward. But now they're like, okay, let's go interview Sam after this weird confession. So they get there and the window is open and he's not there. And they're like, where did he go? Because it's high up and there's no fire escape or anything. And it's like that. What did he do?
Also, there's no shot in hell a holding room would have a window.
Or a window you could open.
That's what I mean. There is no shot, but it's
Mhm.
hilarious that he's just gone.
Yes. Now the woman detective is in the bathroom. The lights won't turn on, but all the sinks are making it hot and foggy in there. They all turn on to the hot. And the mirror starts writing Dana Schultz. And then she sees the ghost. And
Dun,
it's not
dun, dun.
trying to hurt her. It looks like it's trying to speak, but it
Mhm.
can't. Its throat is cut.
Mhm.
So now she's going to see Dean and she wants more information about ghosts and if they're real.
I mean, yeah, after that interaction, I would too.
Mhm. Dean then sees the bruises on her wrist, and they're just like the ones on Karen's. That's what he was looking at when the police found
Yeah.
him at her house. And Dean tells her how to find Sam by their code. Like he was like, it's the first motel in the phone book, and they use a specific name.
Mhm.
And that's how they find each other. So she goes there, not to arrest him, but for his help.
Yep.
And she's kind of conflicted on his criminal behavior slash doing things.
Understandable. She's a cop. She's like, wait, my first instinct is to arrest you.
Yes.
I have to go against that instinct right now and do some potentially illegal things with someone who literally fled from the cops.
Yes. Because even he says, like, you can arrest me after this if you want.
Yeah.
But, and I'm
Let us
like,
get through this first.
how many times can they say that with a cop and it works?
I mean, and to be fair, entire worldview just got shattered into a million pieces.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know?
So she's looking through photos of like missing women from around the area and she sees the ghost. And her name is Claire Becker. She was
Mhm.
arrested twice for dealing drugs. The She did work narcotics in the past with her partner, but she doesn't even remember this woman or like arresting her. Sam says they have to go to that house to try to find her body so they can salt and burn it. And she's like, of course, that's what we have to do.
Yeah. Because again, that sounds insane.
Yes. While looking around, Claire, oh, she only appears to the detective because she's like yelling for Sam. And then when Sam comes there, she's not there anymore.
Yeah.
She did seem to attack, but it was like, again, reaching out for help and not really like an "I want to hurt you."
Yeah, it wasn't like a coming at her aggressively, but it was like grabbing her by the shoulders and be like, I have something to tell you.
Yes. So at this point, we're starting to think, "Oh, is she the one that's doing the killing?"
Mhm.
Sam pulls out an EMF detector, again, explains what it is. However, I have a gripe with this because he pulls it out and says, like, it does the electromagnetic field thing. So it should be able to help us find the spirit. But really, he says it should help us find her body if it's somewhere in here. And the cop is even like, oh, so it'll help us find a body? And he was like, yes. And I am like, no. If
Yeah.
EMF detectors found bodies, we'd be using that in police work all the time.
Yeah. It does not do that. And also, they're in an abandoned building, which probably doesn't have the greatest wiring. So I'm sure that EMF detector is going crazy
Yes.
if you try to use it. And also, you're not finding a body with it.
No. And like the uh, shadow they have of where it says like ashland on the window reflects right to a brick wall. So Sam's like, hey, she's probably back here. And the EMF detector leads them right to that wall.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not how these work. But anyway, Sam starts breaking the wall apart.
hmm
And Sam says he's never encountered a vengeful spirit who brought him to their remains. So he's like, why would she do
Yeah.
that?
It doesn't make any sense. They would be like, I want to go away, please.
Yes. Also, I'm like, within 6 months, would she already be a skeleton? That seems way too fast.
I'm not sure. I did not look up the decomposition rate of bodies. It also just kind of
Yeah.
depends on the environment and how much access there is to like open air. Because
Yeah.
open air and like parasites and things like that will break down a body quicker because it'll like get mold. It'll get
Hmm.
it'll let flies and stuff get in.
I
So
just,
if there was cracks and stuff, then yeah, it'd probably break down pretty quick because
yeah.
like rats and stuff in the wall, like all the critters that would go and scavenge it would be a lot. But yeah, it really depends on the environment.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know how realistic that is, but we'll
I
go
feel
with
like
it.
6 months in an open area, I think probably it would break down pretty quick,
Hmm.
just because that's a lot of time for insects and stuff to eat.
That's fair. But hey, she has a necklace on.
And also, I just think for TV, they don't want to put that much like zombie looking, like half hanging on flesh.
That's
That's a
valid.
lot for like this age of television at least,
That's
which was
fair.
much earlier
Yeah,
than what they got away with.
very true. But yeah, like I said, she's wearing a necklace, and Diana here, the female detective, is like, "Hey, I know that necklace because I have the same one, and Pete
Mm-hmm.
gave it to me." And it's like
Dun dun
custom
dun.
made jewelry as well.
Yeah.
Now, Sam has put together that Claire actually isn't trying to kill anyone. She's warning them. She is a death omen. So she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want revenge. She wants justice.
Yep.
She's now recalling that at the station, they did have heroin go missing, and they knew it had to be a cop because it went missing from, like, lockup, but they
Yeah.
could never find out who. And Sam says, and it would make sense for the cop to give it to somebody who was on the street already,
Yeah.
so it
Someone who's
could be
already
hidden.
has clients.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the next piece of folklore because she is not a vengeful spirit. Huzzah! Finally. This case, she's a death omen. And those are a very common thing in folklore in general. We touched on it a bit when we talked about reapers because reapers are basically a death omen.
Mhm.
But it's slightly different than the reapers because reapers are more of like the ones that like guide the souls to the afterlife or like bring them there
Mhm.
when they're already gone or dying. While a death omen is usually a warning of an impending doom, like it's coming to you soon if you don't do something, or some common ones are your doppelganger. So seeing a version of yourself, basically, if you like look into a crowd of people and you see like someone that looks very, very similar to you, then that's like an omen of that. Birds, like crows and buzzards, because they're scavengers. So they basically eat dead things already, like the remnants of what's left. And because of that, they only tend to circle around things that are dying. So if you start
Mm.
seeing them, that's usually an omen. That's seen as an omen of death
Mhm.
because something around is dying because they're just waiting for it to actually die to go eat it.
Mhm.
Hellhounds are large black ghostly hounds, which we'll get more into hellhounds later when they come up in the show more. But they large black woolly dogs have been seen as death omens a lot, especially in like Britain. Um, and then there's also basically the depiction of the banshee, which is similar to this episode where it's the ghost of a dead woman usually who screams and wails in sadness. It's like a sad wail, like a mourning wail, and
Mhm.
that is usually seen as like an omen of death as well, which is very similar to this ghost who's like trying to like warn them like, hey, you're going to die soon unless you change something. Um, but yeah, a banshee is a spirit from Irish folklore that heralds the death of a family member and are usually heard by their screams, wails, and cries. Because another reason for that is too because in Irish tradition, mourning rituals where women would wail like that and lament during the grieving process. Like it
Mhm.
was a very common thing in ancient times where all the women were expected to like wail and like cry
Mhm.
loudly at funerals and at death services
Yeah.
to show the spirit that people miss them.
There is an episode later on in the series where they do have a banshee.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember correctly, they describe it as one that comes around when, like, a kid, like a child might die, like,
Hmm.
baby to children age, which
Huh.
would also make sense with women
Yeah.
screaming. Um, but in general, I don't think that's true, but I guess we'll figure it out when
We'll
we get
figure it out when
there.
it shows up. Yeah.
Alright, so now Pete, that's the male detective, is taking Dean out for a little ride. He says he's transferring him to another
Yeah.
jail, but he's out in the woods. And Dean is
Hmm.
like, "Hey, if you gotta pee, leave me in the car. Like, leave me out of whatever you're doing."
Yeah. Just trying to be like, please don't, kill me.
Yes. And Diana says she called the station and they said he's transferring him. And Dean was like, and Sam said, like, "Hey, if he took a county car, we can track him if you know
Yeah.
how
It
to,
has a low jack.
yeah, if you can get in like that system." So
Mhm.
they do, and they find them, and now they're all in a standoff. Pete has a gun pointed at Dean, and Diana has a gun pointed at. Because Pete's basically saying he just needs to clean up a couple more people and everything will be fine. And Diana's
Yeah.
like, what the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
He confessed to her that Claire wanted to turn him in, so he killed her.
Yeah, because he has to cut up. He got into over his head. Now he has to clean up all the loose ends.
Yeah. Tony Giles, the dude from the beginning, was skimming money from the operation, but he was also getting skittish and wanted to turn in. So Pete killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he assumed he told his wife all about it. So she had to go too.
So now we know that she died by the cop, not
Yes.
not the ghost.
Ghost.
As well.
The ghost was trying to warn her that
he was coming.
Yeah. And he somehow left before Dean got there.
Magic. He was like already there probably when the ghost showed up, is my guess. Like that's the only way in my head it worked. Because the ghost showed up like, oh no, bad stuff's about to happen. Hey, warning. He's in the house already, you know?
Yeah. And then he tells Diana he still loves her. And she just shoots him in the leg. She's trying to like subdue him and not kill him.
Uh-huh.
But he gets up very quickly and he actually turns around and sees Claire. And in that moment, Diana shoots him in the chest.
Yeah.
And again, our boys here yet have another cop on their side willing to turn their back and let them leave. And Dean's like, hey, where's my car? And she tells them where the car is, but she says, do not think about it. As if they go get it, they're just going to get arrested again.
Uh-huh.
But they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I think even Sam says, like, they're good at improvising.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, I know. And then she says, like, you better leave before they get here.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
Very good episode overall, I thought. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
It was a fun one.
Going on to our crime counter. So
this is gotta be a bad one, man, because they're just all involved with law enforcement, so it's already like bad, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So we got escaping police custody is 3 years.
Yeah.
Lying to police is 180 days, but this could be different if it's like aiding and abetting or like.
Yeah, it depends on the other charges they get charged with, if anything.
Yeah, but just like in general, lying to the police is 180 days. The B&E is 6 to 12 months. And then breaking a hole into the wall where they did the brick wall, that's usually just fine. And like if they fix it, usually there's no like jail time. As long as it doesn't exceed $1,000. If it goes
Which I don't think that would have been.
No. Yeah, if it was over $1,000, that'd be 6 to 12 months.
Also, that was in the process of like aiding the law enforcement, so you probably won't even get charged with that one.
That's true. The cop was there and they found a dead
That's what I mean. Like the cop found a body for an open case. Like, so that one's debatable. I feel like as it being a crime because they were technically helping a cop there, but
yeah, that's what I got. There might be more throughout the episode, but that
sounds about right.
Okay, cool. So let's go on to our ratings. The story and pacing, we both gave it a 5.
Yeah, I thought this one was very fun. It was a very quick watch. Like it felt like it, and not in like a way of like, oh, it was rushed. In the way that was like, oh, I was thoroughly enjoying that, so I kind of forgot that I was like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where time just goes by quick. You're like, I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, I agree.
And I thought the plot was very tight and like engaging. Like it went really smoothly. I thought
it's crazy what happens when there's like a ton of really good actors in a show.
That also helps.
Yes, it does. The monster lore, we both gave it a 2. I just want to say, for me, it was the 2 because there really wasn't any lore. They didn't explain what a death omen was. They just said she is one.
I mean, death omen is a very straightforward phrase. I feel like most people would understand what it meant. But I get what your point is because I gave it a 2 as well because it's basically a vengeful spirit. Like it's the same premise, like the same rules, same premise. A lot of that. The only thing that I gave it a bump up for was like, oh, they switched up on the head. The ghost isn't killing people; it's actually warning people. I was like, oh, okay, That's fun.
Mhm.
That's like nice little change of a. Again, I will give them a lot of credit. The Supernatural writers. They lean on ghosts a lot, especially in these
Mhm.
early seasons, but they're very good at making each ghost feel different some way. Like, I
Yes.
have not thought of like, "Oh, this is just a rehash of that episode." It's never been that. They've all been unique enough where I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, this is entertaining still." So, like,
Yes.
the writers are very, very good at, like, making it different enough,
Yeah, I definitely agree.
but not enough to get more than a 2 because I want more lore, man.
Yeah, me too. Character development, we both gave it a 1.
This wasn't that episode. This is a fun episode.
Yeah, it was fun. No character development.
We
Mm.
we learned the same things. The brothers will break laws for each other. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it was the one thing I did think was neat. Like, the one thing I was like debating maybe making it a 2, but I ultimately decided to keep it 1. Was that we did learn a little more into their operation. Like, they have
Mm.
codes, they have a method to their madness, and that was kind of fun to see. Like, they used the first phone book motel in the phone book, and then use
Yeah.
this name. Like, that's cool. I thought to like get that little sneak peek, but like that was just a tiny little bit. So like,
And I
yeah.
think that more goes into, like, story
Yeah,
as
I'm just saying, like,
well.
that's technically their dynamic with each other, but it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think it's development.
And, like, that they obviously, talk about what their stories slash
Yeah,
alibis are gonna be before
yeah,
they get there, so
for
they
sure.
have matching stories in case this happens.
I mean, they do have a long car ride between most places, I feel like.
Yes. It makes me wonder if their story is pretty much always the same, they just swap out names and places.
Probably, if they can get away with it.
Yeah, because that would be the easiest.
Mhm.
Alright. So next, visuals and direction. We both gave it a 4. We rated everything the same this time.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this one, was very good.
Mhm.
It had really fun shots, had really cool things.
Yes.
I really enjoyed, like, the horror makeup and, like, the horror like, the bathroom, like, steaming up and, like, all the different little things were really cool. So yeah, I very much enjoyed all of the atmosphere that it built.
Yes. Me too. And they always like to do this thing, like, at the beginning at the police station, and the detective is interviewing somebody. It's like, "Oh, who could it be?" And then they swing it around the camera around to show Dean's face, and you're
Mhm.
supposed to be shocked, but, like, the show is about him, so it's like,
Yeah.
obviously, it's gonna be one of the brothers.
It's still, like, one of my favorite shots, though.
Yes,
I do
I
like
do
it.
like it. Emotional impact, we both gave it a 1.
There's no emotion at all in this one. Like, if
No.
I could give it a 0, I'd give it a 0. This was just a little action cop thing. Like, it wasn't
Mhm.
yeah. It was not supposed to be emotional.
No, next episode might be, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get there. Rewatchability, we both gave it a 5,
Yeah.
and I will say, uh, we both had to watch this episode, like, twice because of our, like, a long break, as we did this episode and then never recorded it.
Yeah,
So
we had all our notes and our everything ready to go.
yes, and so we watched it again just to make sure we remembered everything, and it was fun again the second time.
Yeah.
So, this is truly a 5.
I will say there's one line that I this is just a rant completely off topic, but there was one line at the very end of the episode that made got a giggle out of me too. Because Dean was like, You hungry at all?" To like Sam when they were like walking away.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Yeah, I can eat something." He's like, Good, because I was thinking like pea soup for some reason. Because of
Yes,
Linda Blair and like the exorcist vomit.
yes.
And also he said like right before then, he's like, "Does she look familiar to you at all?" I don't know why. She looks very familiar to me. Which
Yeah, they
I thought that was hilarious to me.
they like breaking the fourth wall, for the viewers that will get it, which
Yeah,
is
that's what I
always
mean. Like it's
nice.
very subtle, but it's like fun. And
Mhm.
it made me a giggle, at least.
And then for the salt and sass, we both gave it a 3.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they weren't together for the banter. The banter was there at the end.
Yeah. There was some banter, like I said, that last line I guess I was, like, one thing ahead of myself. But yeah, that last line was very funny. Some, like, like, Dean, the bantering with the cops was very funny to me. The banter with the lawyer I thought was pretty funny. But,
Mhm.
it wasn't anything that I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." So, just middle of the road 3.
Yeah. So since we rated the same thing for all of them, both of our average scores were 3 out of 5. So the combined score is 3 out of 5.
Yep, 3 out of 5. Nice strong episode.
Mhm. This is the average episode you should be looking out for.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments if you guys agree with our scores, disagree with our scores, if you would change anything, if we're complete idiots or we're actually right on the money. Let us know either way. We'd love to hear from you. And that brings us to the end of season 2, episode 7, The Usual Suspects. Thank you for joining us this week, where we encountered a death omen and a dirty cop. Next week, Dean has to tell the truth about his father's death.
He's forced to face the truth, not tell the truth.
Forced to face the truth. Sorry. Either way, like you said, more emotional for sure. So expect that emotional score to be right up there.
Yes.
But until next time, whenever you're ready, see you in the archive. Goodbye.
Bye.